Here is Len Herzenberg's recollection of how the fluorescence-activated cell sorter began.
We used whatever techniques we thought were possibly applicable. And we could sort cells based upon their electrophoretic mobility or upon their charge. We could sort cells on the basis of size, but we could not sort and recover cells on the basis of their antigen specificity. That is, there was at the time, there were a number of attempts to sort cells on the basis of antigen specificity without having to develop a cell sorter, such as we did. Such things as binding to solid materials, plastic supports or nylon supports, or even just petri dishes, where we tried to bind cells that bound antigen B or A by having antigen A or B on the plates. The problem was that we could bind them, but we couldn't get them off. Or at least we couldn't get them off in viable form, and nobody was able to get them off in viable form. And at the time, a number of different laboratories were trying to do just that and weren't succeeding. So I kept asking people who might have heard of a device or a means of sorting, separating cells which bound antigen A versus B or B versus A. I did hear then that there was a machine at Los Alamos, which Mac Fulwiler had talked about, which could separate cells, and they could be live cells in principle. But it turned out that that machine only sorted or only separated cells on the basis of size, and size wasn't what I was looking for. And I also heard of a machine which was at the IBM laboratories in New York. And I was told that machine would separate cells based upon what it could bind. But then when I went to look at that machine in New York, I found that it didn't. And it only sorted very few cells, and that it didn't sort live cells, and also didn't even sort by fluorescence in general, although fluorescence could have been used. So these two machines were the two precursors I was told about and did investigate as possible precursors for the sorter. In fact, I learned something mainly from the Los Alamos experience, that you could sort cells and you could sort live cells, but that it was not done by fluorescence, and therefore it wasn't suitable for looking for specific antigen binding cells. But I went and saw both machines, and IBM actually gave me the machine with all its optical components and parts. Gave it to Stanford for me and my group. And we ended up cannibalizing that machine because there were many good optical components to it. But we really didn't make any use of the machine as such. It didn't serve our purpose, and didn't even sort cells at a reasonable rate. I mean, it only sorted a maximum of 300 cells, and that was it. And it was intended to be used for cancer cell detection, and that didn't require live cells. The machine at Los Alamos, New Mexico, which had been built by Mac Fulwiler, who deserves credit for having built the first sorter, even though he was not interested in fluorescence and didn't apply fluorescence to it prior to the time when we did that. It worked as a volume or size cell sorter. And Fulwiler, when I went to Los Alamos, I asked Fulwiler if he would consider putting fluorescence onto the machine, because I'm not an engineer and I just wanted to do the experiment, which was based upon, I thought, the only way of doing it was with fluorescence. And Fulwiler said, well, that isn't our particular interest, and we really cannot do this. So I asked him if we could have the plans for the machine, or I asked him actually first if he would build a copy of his machine, and we would try then put fluorescence onto the machine. He said no, he couldn't do that. So then I asked, could he give us the plans of the machine, and I would try to get it built back at Stanford by some engineer or engineers. And he said, sure, we can give you the plans, and he gave us the plans. I gave them to an engineer at Stanford in the instrumentation research laboratory, which was in our department at the time.